Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me on this video. In this video we're going to go to the jungles of Costa Rica, the gravel bars in the state of Washington. Also we're going to go to some backcountry strips in the state of Oregon. There is Chukar Flats, Bull Run, and finally we're going to go to the state of Idaho. So what I'm trying to show in this video are very narrow airstrips. Also, in some situations when you are landing off airport, you only have one line, so it becomes a narrow landing. And first we'll start with Sirena in Corcovado National Park in Costa Rica. This is the narrowest airstrip I've ever landed at. This is very dense jungle and it is very difficult to find. Airstrip is about 600 meter long, but usable about 300. Then it's like a swamp, so you cannot use the rest of the airstrip. The way I do these landings, I look at the end of the tracks and scan my view back to me and aim for the tracks and try to make small corrections with rudder and aileron. The only advantage here is that it's never windy. It will be too difficult and risky to land in this narrow strip with wind. It's the same Sirena, and now I'm landing from the ocean, and the first 300 meters you cannot land on because it's like a swamp. It's too muddy and risky. But you can see here that the tracks are narrow, and you will see that at the end I get off the track. I get like cross-rutted, and that is the main risk because the tracks, the roots are kind of deep, so your tires is like a slot car, and if they get off, the whole plane goes sideways. This is the widest section of the whole airstrip. That's at the beginning they do a track for a quad for servicing the strip. As you can see, the servicing is very basic. Now we can see a takeoff and you can see the whole airstrip. So by doing very small corrections when landing with aileron and rudder, you can align yourself straight into the tracks and land successfully. I have never got cross-rutted when landing from the mountain. We continue in Costa Rica. The next one is Amubri. You have to come in high because there are tall trees and the strip is narrow and rough. The challenge is not much space because maybe only 200 meters usable. The rest is too bumpy. The tall grass makes it a challenge as well. This strip is also very narrow, you can barely see it, and it's very bumpy. I try to come as slow as possible to avoid any damage to the airplane and do correction with aileron and rudder to align to the semi-track you can see showing the center of the runway. Amur is a small Indian community near the border with Panama on the Atlantic coast. Takeoff is rough but not so challenging because there is plenty of space once you're light on the wheels and there is no big obstacles. Here is an outside view landing from the east. You can see really how rough this strip is and how careful you have to be when landing here. view will show you the tracks where I try to aim for. They are from cars or quads, so they're narrower than an airplane, so the tires are actually outside the tracks, but it is what I use to align myself to the center of the runway, because if a car goes through it, the airplane should be able to. From this view you can get a better idea how this looks from the air, from the pilot perspective. What I do is I look at the end of the tracks and they scan my view back towards me and do small corrections with rudder, aileron and sometimes throttle, so I can stay aligned. We're still in Costa Rica with the Cessna 182. This is Pavones on the Pacific coast. Very narrow strip, it's just 2-track. Not having wind is a game changer for this kind of landings, because with wind it will be very difficult to align the airplane perfectly with the tracks. This is Idaho. The airstrip is Marble airstrip. The challenge here is that it's not as narrow as the ones in Costa Rica, but this is high density altitude and you have to be precise or else you will get off the tracks and can damage your airplane. High density altitude will make you land at a faster ground speed. More ground speed means that if you get off the tracks and it's not perfectly aligned, if you're going faster, there is a lot more chances that you will damage your airplane. Now we go to the state of Washington. I'm going to show you some landings on gravel bars. Sometimes the line is only one, so you have to pick your line, and that makes it a narrow landing because you have to be very precise. Touch down where you need to touch down, no floating, and also you cannot be to the side because you can be on the water or with big rocks or logs. The Cessna 170 is a bit more easy to align than the 182 because you come like 10 miles an hour slower on approach, and it's also a lot more sensitive to your inputs. Here I'm landing at Arrowhead Gravel Bar in the Skycomish River, Washington State. You can see there is some bushes on the left, a log on the right, so I only have one line to land and I need to be precise and straight, so I can slow, small corrections and look at the end of the gravel bar and then scan my view back towards me. This is also Arrowhead. Now I am landing from the east. Now we have the bushes to my right side, some bushes to the left, so I have to be precise where I put the airplane. There is only one line you can do to make a successful landing. With this view from the drone you can see the tire tracks and how I only have one line to do this and you have to be straight, so the takeoff is a little bit easier to do. And finally a view from the ground. There is absolutely no wind on this day, so that helps a lot. Now we go next to the state of Oregon. There is a couple of very fun airstrips, a little bit on the narrow side. This is Bull Run. You see there is a track and goes to the right. So as soon as you touch down you have to start to turn so you don't get off the track and then you will damage your airplane with some big rocks that are to the side. Again, this is Bull Run with a 182 and this is an outside view that shows you more of the scenery of this beautiful place. You can see the rocks painted in white that shows you the limits of the track. Chakra Flats, another beautiful airstrip in Oregon, also on the narrow side. You have to be precise. Also no floating, you cannot go too fast because it's kind of short, but you cannot get off the tracks because you will damage your airplane. I do my approach with minor rudder and aileron corrections, some throttle, so I stay aligned with the narrow tracks. This is Chiroles Strip on the Atlantic side. The challenge here is the approach, big trees. The strip is not so long and there are big trees at the end, so late go around would be very risky. I'm showing this one because it has a narrow path for the approach between the trees. The airstrip is not that wide anyway, but the challenge here is also the narrow path. So in reality this is a narrow approach. It will be quite difficult if it's windy because of the turbulence created by the trees. So definitely only on very light winds or calm wind. The airstrip is in really good condition. This airstrip is in Duval, in Washington. It is very close to my base airport, so this is a perfect place to come and practice. This airstrip has some tire tracks in the center, so I use them to train to land every single time just right on the spot. These are made by vehicles, so they are narrower than the landing gear of a Cessna, so it's just like a reference to be in the center. Sometimes I try to align one tire with the track and the other tire outside. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to support Backcountry182, please join me on Patreon. It is very easy to join Patreon. Go to my YouTube channel, the link is in the description of this video, and navigate below Backcountry182 at the top right. You can click on Patreon and it will take you to the Patreon page where you can select your membership level. It will show you the peers and everything. By becoming a Patreon for Backcountry182, you will not only be helping the YouTube channel, but you can also get direct advice or discount on some aviation products for your airplane, or advice or products for your airplane. We can chat, video call if needed.